A Ukrainian sniper is already in position before the motorcycles leave the staging area. He's not reacting, he's waiting, because a reconnaissance drone 2 kilometers out has been watching the Russian assault group form up for the last 20 minutes. The drone operator has already mapped the route. The terrain narrows it to 2 options. The sniper covers one, an FPV team covers the other. The Russian riders don't know any of this. They're moving fast, spread out, trusting that speed will carry them through the open ground before a drone operator can get a lock. That logic worked once in 2024 near Pokrovsk. This is 2026. It gets you killed before you reach the line. To understand why a modern military is sending men into a drone-saturated kill zone on 2-wheeled civilian vehicles, you need to understand what the alternative looks like. Russia has lost over 3,000 tanks since 2022. Burned out landmarks along the same corridors over and over. Ukrainian teams mapped those corridors years ago. Our USI said it plainly. Heavy armor is now a liability on approach. At a certain point, the math stops being strategy and starts being a cry for help. Motorcycles offer a different calculation. They're cheap, a few $1,000s at most. They're fast, capable of crossing open ground far quicker than infantry on foot. Their small size and inconsistent heat signature make them genuinely harder to track than a BMP. And when one gets destroyed, Russian command doesn't have to write a report explaining how they lost a T-90. In the brutal math of Russian attrition, a dead rider is a rounding error. A dead tank is a problem. The 3rd Ukrainian Assault Brigade noted a Russian penetration near Pokrovsk in 2024 using ATVs. It worked once, partially. That one data point became the justification for scaling the concept across every active front simultaneously. By April 2026, ISW was tracking motorcycle assaults in the Kostiantynivka direction, the Sloviansk direction, and Zaporizhzhia, effectively everywhere Ukrainian defensive lines are holding. Training footage released by the Russian Ministry of Defense showed soldiers from what ISW assessed as the 299th Paratrooper Regiment practicing combined motorcycle tactics in groups of 2 and 3. The military that once paraded intercontinental ballistic missiles through Red Square is now releasing training footage of guys doing motorcycle drills as if that's capability signaling. It would be funny if those same guys weren't dying in Ukrainian fields 2 weeks later. Here's where the theory falls apart, and it falls apart before the riders even mount up. Speed only protects you if the enemy can't see you moving. In 2022, that was occasionally true. In 2026, it is not true anywhere on the active front. Ukrainian drone reconnaissance runs continuously across contested sectors, not reactively, continuously. Before an assault group forms, sometimes before it even leaves the staging area, Ukrainian drone operators are already tracking patterns of movement, engine heat, and concentration. Ukrainian defense spokesman Pavlo Shamshin put the core problem bluntly when discussing the tactic. Motorcycles are loud. Riders literally cannot hear approaching drones because their own engines mask the sound. You've got soldiers riding into a kill zone who can't hear the thing about to kill them. Eastern Ukraine looks vast at ground level. From 400 meters up, it looks like a grid. Tree lines, ditches, rutted tracks, every feature becomes a choke point visible from above. The drone operator doesn't need to track the group. The landscape does it for him. The sniper doesn't need to guess where they'll go. The terrain guesses for him. The commander of the Azov Brigade's Unmanned Systems Battalion, call sign Bud, whose unit has grown from 170 to over 450 personnel in the past year, described what this looks like from the Ukrainian side. He told the New Voice of Ukraine that Russian motorcycle assault troops face near certain death within what he called a kill zone extending up to 20 kilometers from the front line. His unit, he said, could not recall a single case where a Russian armored assault vehicle reached Ukrainian lines. Motorcycles are harder to hit in real time because of their speed, but they don't escape the kill zone. They just move through it faster until something stops them. Here's what the sniper sees when the first bike crosses into range. A Ukrainian Special Operations Unit, call sign Typhoon, was holding positions in Pokrovsk's northern sector in late March 2026 when Russian motorcycle groups pushed toward them in small clusters. The unit's deputy commander, call sign Scorpion, described it without drama. The enemy is not inventing anything new. It accumulates forces and then sends small infantry groups toward the line of contact. These groups are destroyed on approach. Not at the objective, not in a firefight at the line, on the way there. The mechanics of that destruction have become standardized enough that Ukrainian commanders talk about it like a system rather than a battle. Reconnaissance drones pass targeting data forward in real time. Sniper teams or FPV operators pre-position based on what the drones are showing. The first shot goes to the lead rider, not because he's the highest value target, but because a downed bike physically blocks the column. Everything behind it has to stop, steer around, or slow at exactly the point where slowing is fatal. The coordinated movement the group depended on is gone in the first 3 seconds of contact. What follows is not a firefight, it's a process. Riders who try to regroup get engaged first because regrouping restores unit effectiveness. Riders who slow to assess what happened become stationary targets. Riders who accelerate without a direction just create noise and dust until the next shot finds them. Shots are spaced deliberately, not fast enough to be suppressed, not slow enough to allow any recovery. The unit stops understanding what it's facing. The panic spreads faster than any command can. On March 31st, 2026, Ukraine's 81st Air Assault Brigade stopped what Ukrainian command called the largest motorcycle assault of the year. 16 bikes pushing toward paratrooper positions on the Sloviansk front in coordinated groups of 3 and 4. The 81st specifically cited timely detection as why it failed. That phrase sounds like a press release. What it means is that the ambush was already set before the first rider crossed the line of departure. Not a single meter of ground changed hands. Near Kramatorsk, Ukraine's 5th Assault Brigade eliminated 18 Russian motorcyclists in a single operation. 3 armored vehicles and 2 transport vehicles were also destroyed in that same engagement. Those numbers tell you exactly what happened. The motorcycle group had already called for armored support before it was finished, which means the support element drove into a second ambush that was already waiting for it. The armor didn't save the riders. The riders pulled the armor into the kill zone. This is the part that keeps repeating and doesn't seem to be reaching Russian command. When a motorcycle assault stalls, which it does now with enough regularity to qualify as a pattern, the call goes out for armored support. Tanks, BMPs, Ural trucks with additional infantry. The logic is sound in isolation. Light forces are pinned, so bring heavy firepower, suppress the threat, allow recovery. It works in doctrine. It doesn't work here because the defenders already know the armor is coming before the riders do. Ukrainian drone operators detect the column moving toward the contact area and push the warning forward immediately. By the time the first tank fires in the direction of the last known sniper position, the snipers are already gone. The shells land in empty terrain. The sniper who fired the first shot is already 400 meters from where he was. The tank is still shooting at the smoke. Then the engagement shifts entirely. Armored vehicles and open ground without infantry screen are exactly what Ukrainian FPV operators train for. Drones hit exposed turret roofs and engine decks. Crews button up, lose visibility, lose coordination with any surviving infantry. Smoke and secondary damage mean the crew has no idea what's happening outside the vehicle. What was supposed to be a rescue operation becomes a second kill zone with fresh hardware in it. ISW tracked 4 Russian assault attempts across the front in a 48-hour window in mid-April. 3 of the 4 didn't advance 1 meter past the existing line of contact. Russian commanders are filing reports that say the offensive is progressing. The burned motorcycles are filing a different report. A prominent Russian mill blogger, cited by ISW in their April 25th assessment, put the diagnosis plainly while responding to a factory director named Boglaev complaining publicly about strategic disorganization. False reporting up the chain of command means Russian leadership genuinely doesn't understand what's happening at the front line. The rosy picture in the briefing room is disconnected from the burned motorcycles in the field. Russia's commanders are essentially managing a war through a game of telephone where everyone at the bottom is too scared to say the motorcycles aren't working and everyone at the top is too insulated to find out. Finnish President Alexander Stubb didn't talk about motorcycles when he spoke at a Brookings Institution panel in Milan in mid-April 2026. He put the current kill ratio at 1 Ukrainian soldier for every 5 Russian soldiers. His figure for Russian losses: 150 to 157 dead per square kilometer of contested terrain per week. That is not a sustainable rate for any military. It's a rate that compounds. The motorcycle isn't a solution to Russia's attrition problem. The kill ratio is proof of that. It's a coping mechanism, the tactical equivalent of taking out a payday loan and calling it a financial strategy. The same ISW assessment added a detail that reframes the whole picture. Up to 80% of Russian casualties in 2025 were among first-time volunteers and contract soldiers sent into small assault groups on short notice, with soldiers who've barely trained together and often don't know the men beside them. The motorcycle assault groups hitting Ukrainian lines are not highly trained light cavalry executing rehearsed doctrine. They're recently recruited soldiers being handed a bike pointed at a Ukrainian position and told to move fast. That's not a motorcycle problem. That's a personnel quality problem wearing a motorcycle uniform, and yet the training centers are still running. Russia has already decided the answer is more motorcycles. So the real question is, what happens when the volume triples and Ukraine's counter system is already waiting for it? While this script was being written, Russian training footage showed soldiers in pairs and threes practicing motorcycle assault drills on an unnamed range inside Russia. Same bikes, same spacing, same approach angles, like watching someone rehearse a play where they already know how it ends. The audience is a Ukrainian drone operator. The curtain call is an FPV. And yet they keep scheduling rehearsals. Ukrainian operational group Kharkiv confirmed in April 2026 that spring-summer assault operations are expected to involve motorcycles at increased scale. Ukraine's answer to that volume increase is not more snipers, it's more automation. Zelensky announced in late April that Ukraine has ordered 25,000 ground robots for 2026, twice the 2025 number. These are the same systems that already captured Russian prisoners without a single shot fired, operated by controllers miles behind the line. Ukraine is upgrading, Russia is regressing. That's not a gap anymore, it's a direction. Any military watching this conflict is clocking the same lesson. Speed without information control doesn't give you an advantage. It gives you a faster route to the part where you die. Russia hasn't solved that. What it has found is a cheaper way to keep testing whether it has. The front line doesn't care about the doctrine. It just counts the bikes. And then there's the horse. On April 26, 2026, a Ukrainian FPV drone eliminated a Russian soldier who was attempting to approach Ukrainian positions on horseback, not a motorcycle, a horse. Russian sources confirmed it, noting that horses can move without engine noise, navigate around mines using instinct, and accelerate at close range without roads. The logic is almost admirable in a 19th century kind of way. Every time Ukrainian forces develop a counter to a Russian mobility tactic, Russia pivots to something older, cheaper, and quieter. Motorcycles replaced tanks because tanks were too loud and too visible. Horses are replacing motorcycles for the same reason motorcycles are now failing: engine noise, predictable routes, and a heat signature that drones can track. The direction of travel is not toward more advanced technology, it's toward less of it. Ukraine's response to the horse was a drone. Ukraine's response to the motorcycle was also a drone. The asymmetry there is not subtle. Two militaries are now moving in opposite directions simultaneously. One toward autonomous systems, ground robots, and integrated surveillance networks, and the other toward animals that were last used in large-scale European warfare about 100 years ago. That gap does not close on its own. Russian commanders defending this front would say it's pragmatic adaptation to drone-dominated terrain. And in a narrow technical sense, they're right. A horse is quieter than a motorcycle and harder to track on radar. What they can't explain is how a horse survives in a kill zone that extends 20 kilometers from the front line and is saturated with FPV drones capable of hitting targets at 40 kilometers. The horse isn't an adaptation to the kill zone, it's just a slower way to enter it. The March engagements are documented, the April numbers are filed, the summer wave is already in a training ground somewhere inside Russia right now, and the Ukrainian surveillance network is already learning to recognize the pattern. None of it has changed. Ukraine still owns the low sky across contested terrain. Russian armor still dies in the approach corridors. The kill ratio is still 5-to-1, and somewhere on that front, a sniper is already in position, not waiting for the bikes to arrive, but waiting for the moment he already planned. The motorcycles will keep coming, Ukraine's surveillance grid will keep watching. Somewhere between those two facts, the outcome of each engagement keeps writing itself before the first rider crosses the start line. That's what modern attrition looks like when one side controls information and the other controls doctrine.